trainer Justin Nixon. Please welcome him to the panel. Justin, thank you so much for coming out tonight to be with us here on this cold Wednesday night at Woodbine. First of all, and congratulations are in order for you because you won the second race here with a horse by the name of Maze Rocket. Can you tell us a little bit about Maze Rocket and the trip she got tonight and anything else you'd like to share?
Sure. I did have Fort Larn in the Breeders' Cup Classic too. I love it that day. So, but no, Maze Rocket's been just a real honest type of horse. You know, a nice product of our Ontario Sire program here that unfortunately faces some uncertainty with what the government is trying to do, which is a real shame. But you know, this is just a nice 3-year-old horse. We had him down in Florida over the winter, preparing for the spring season, and he's just been a model of consistency. He trains very well, eats very well, and every time I've run him, he's just showed up and given 100%.
It seems that the more he run with a horse like Pender Harbor, who's an absolute monster around this track, and was third, only beaten 6 lengths, that's got to say something about his ability.
It was a real big step up for him, but we felt it was worth a shot. It was our last opportunity to try the grass, which he seemed to handle very well. And he had mentally and matured through the season. You know, earlier in the spring he was a little green. You know, he'd wait on horses. He didn't really have the killer instinct, if you will. And he's certainly developed along. And
I believe so, Jesse. You know, last year was kind of a break-in year for Jesse. You know, a new face is always takes some time to you know, to make some headway. And he certainly caught on last year a little bit late, and this year he's obviously, you know, he's turned into one of the top riders here, and I would be shocked if he didn't come back.
Where did he come from, Justin?
He came from the Midwest. He started out Arlington Park, Chicago, and then he's done some time down in Louisiana, where, you know, so the Midwest and southwestern United States.
How did he come to move up here? I mean, he was doing quite well down there, I guess, eh?
Yeah, he had a very good business down there, but his agent and himself talked about, you know, making a move. Obviously, the purse structure here at Woodbine is very, very good. The exchange rate has been very strong. You know, that actually stopped a lot of owners and a lot of other horse people from coming up to Canada. You know, as someone that's trained in both the U.S. and Canada, the exchange rate when the Canadian dollar was much weaker than the U.S., it was very difficult to get an American client, even if he had a Canadian-bred horse, to send it up here because they say, well, you know, we're only running for half the money. You know, it's a $50,000 pot, but by the time I exchange it, it's only 30, that kind of thing. So now that the dollar has changed and the economics have changed, it made it more attractive for Jesse to come up and you know, make a move. And I think he just liked the facility. He liked the fact that, you know, there's 9 months of racing as opposed to Chicago, which they rotate a little bit between Hawthorne and Arlington. And Hawthorne's kind of a tougher meet, winter meet, and it's not the most pleasant place in the world. If you've ever been there, it's a little rougher, but it's a very nice facility. I'm not taking anything away from it, but when you're January in Chicago and you're racing, it's tough. So I think a lot of those factors just combined for him to make the move here.
Did he bring his agent with him?
Yes, he did. He brought his agent, who's his name's Lindy McDaniel, and they've been together quite some time. So they've worked hard at it, and now they're seeing the results of that hard work.
Kind of funny in that race you won. Number 8 is Mia's Rocket, and number 9 is Maze Rocket.
Yes, I'm sure that gives Dan Loisel some headaches. But I'm happy with the Rocket I have. I won't trade.
Gem of consistency for sure.
You trained some of your horses at Fort Erie?
Yes. Yes, I've had a string at Fort Erie for quite some time. It's you know, a smaller string and maybe more of the B horses that we'll do down there. But I also like to take a lot of my babies down there, 2-year-olds, younger horses. The atmosphere is much more relaxed. The surface is a very, very kind surface. That dirt surface at Fort Erie is probably second to none. And if we lose that track, it's going to be a real blow to Ontario racing. There's list of horses that were struggling here at Woodbine with the poly, and I had one by the name of Davrick. And Davrick was very challenged to win here for about a $10,000 claiming level. And he had a very, very fast horse and a very talented horse, but just did not handle poly track. And when we brought him to Fort Erie and he got over the Fort Erie track, he ran 3/4 and 8 and change. And you know, he won 4 races from 5 starts. You know, with earnings of probably $50,000, I would say, but you know, ballpark. And he certainly wasn't going to do that here. And it really, Fort Erie allows, you know, a different type of horse to develop, and you know, with just one option, you're kind of locked into you know, what kind of horse you have. And if you're unfortunate enough to have a dirt horse, and we don't have an outlet like Fort Erie where they can go down and be productive, it's another, you know, major blow to Ontario racing. And it's just it's a fantastic facility. If you guys haven't been there, it's a shame. I hope all of you guys have made the trip down at one time, because it's just a lovely place with flowers and trees, and the atmosphere is really just a nice atmosphere to be at the races.
Best.
The best. Well, there's Sam said it. That's all. Yeah, I won't argue with that, Sam. It's a great spot.
It used to be like the Saratoga is in the States. Our summer meet used to be there.
Yes, it used to have the A meet, and it's had its struggles, you know, for quite some time. But I think if anybody was at the Prince of Wales this year, and you saw, you know, upwards of 6,000-7,000 people in that grandstand, and you know, the upbeat atmosphere, and you know, people will come to good racing, and I think that's what we have to provide. But I certainly don't think eliminating Fort Erie from the racing schedule is a solution.
I hope not. Anyway, Justin, do you find that you can train your horses better there than on the poly track?
I prefer it, and I'm going to be fair, because there's a lot of horses that actually train better over the poly track. There are not a lot, I shouldn't say a lot, but certain horses will train better over the poly track. As a whole, I would prefer to train at Fort Erie. At that, I think it offers a lot of other options. The air quality is better. The atmosphere is better for horses.
The airplanes.
The airplanes aren't flying overhead. It's more serene. It's very relaxed. So the horses you'll get a lot of horses here at Woodbine that just don't settle. There's a lot of traffic with cars. There's the planes flying overhead, and some horses just don't handle that environment. And you bring them down to Fort Erie, and they relax. They'll eat better. They put on weight. They train a little kinder. Where here they're just always kind of nervous, and they're aggressive when they train. They don't eat the way you'd like to see them eat. And at the same time, I've had a lot of horses that come up here and they get on the poly, and they actually train a lot better. But as a rule, I would prefer overall, you know, the 4 year, and it's a great place to develop a horse.
Any of his horses coming up?
How many different uppers do you have that you train for?
Right now, I would say I guess it's about 4 or 5, and that, you know, that varies as, you know, clients will get bigger, they'll get smaller, they'll you know, they might, you know, have a bad run of luck and get out, or they have a good run of luck and get a couple more. So that dynamic is kind of constantly changing, and of course the most challenging part we face now is the uncertainty that, you know, the government has put over the business, and it's hard to bring in new investment and keep the old investment when, you know, nobody really knows what's happening next year, what kind of purse structure we're going to run for, how many days, what's going to happen to the Ontario Sire program. So a lot of people are just kind of sitting back and waiting to see, and you know, and as the sales reflected, the yearling sales reflected, people just aren't, you know, they're not ready to spend, and so it's very difficult, you know, to get new clients at this time, and a lot of the clients that people have are scaling back, you know, because they're just because of the uncertainty.
Some reason for coming up with that figure?
Well, again, nothing's really been decided. You know, everything is speculation. You know, this panel has made a bunch of recommendations, and none of it's binding. None of it is going, you know, needs to be adopted by the government. And right now, you know, for all intents and purposes, we don't have a government. So, you know, exactly where are we? You know, we're just kind of in limbo.
They quit before they got money.
Even the NDP at this stage is more favorable than the
Yeah,
Liberals.
that's right.
But,
Liberals are the worst.
yeah, I think, you know, it just, again, we all need, as an industry, and you guys as fans as well, you have to keep writing letters, you have to keep making noise and letting MPPs and people know that, you know, this industry is very important to the province of Ontario. And I mean, you know, between the first thoroughbred sale and the first standardbred sale, they lost over $2.9 million in revenue, you know, combined at the two sales. And that's $2.9 million taken out of the economy of the province of Ontario that people are going to spend. And it just continues to snowball. So I didn't think, you know, our economy could take a $2.9 million hit, but I guess the Liberals thought so. And I don't understand. I don't, but...
Nobody seems to understand what's going on.
No. This lady here would like to ask a question, I think.
I wonder if you can explain to me the difference between speed and pace.
Well, that's interesting. That's a tough question. Sam, this was supposed to be easy. The difference between speed and pace. Speed is I mean, they're kind of similar, and I hope that I get this right, and this is maybe what I believe, and I guess it's open to interpretation. But as far as true speed goes, I mean, you'll see sprinters with speed, you know, 21:44, and that's what I would call speed. You know, how fast a horse can run early, and pace would be how far a horse can carry that speed. Okay, so going 2 turns, it's more about pace, where if you're sprinting 5/8 of a mile, it's more about speed. So, you know, if you go, you know, 22:44, 22:45, that's kind of speed. But when you start stretching out, you go 24:48 or 24:47, then 3/4 and 12 or 13. That's kind of the pace of the race. You know, the pace would be every 1/8 and 12 kind of thing, where speed to me is just more that early, quick lick and you know, how fast you can go a half a mile, as opposed to carrying it over a distance. You know, the speed does hurt a horse, especially young, you know, early speed. 2-year-olds, you watch these 2-year-olds going 22:45, you know, in August of their 2-year-old year, and we keep going with them, and a lot of times we don't give them the time we need from 2 to 3, or we, you know, maybe we over race them at 2, and I think that's probably done more harm, and that's the reason why sprinters don't last as long as you know, we're just not giving them the time off to heal up from tweaks and injuries that we should.